The Little Prince's Journey, Discovering Life's True Meaning, Quick Summary. There was a time, long ago, when I found myself stranded in the vast, endless sands of the Sahara Desert. My plane had broken down, and with no help in sight, I was alone with the sun, the sand, and the silence. But in that endless emptiness, a small, clear voice called out to me. Soft, unassuming, yet so full of wonder that I could not ignore it. That is how I first met the Little Prince. He appeared as if from nowhere, standing beside me in the golden dawn. His eyes were wide and curious, his hair golden like the sun, his manner gentle and unhurried. He looked at me as if I were not a grown man lost in the desert, but a child who still believed in miracles. "Please," he said, "draw me a sheep." A sheep? In the midst of this unforgiving wilderness? I was taken aback. I had never drawn a sheep in my life, but there was something about the Little Prince that made me want to try. I scribbled a few attempts, but each time he shook his head. Too sick, too old, too horned. Finally, in frustration, I drew a box with holes in it. "This is your sheep," I told him. "Inside is the sheep you want." His face lit up with joy. "That's perfect, that's exactly what I wanted." It was then that I realized there was more to this child than met the eye. He looked at my drawing not with the eyes of an adult, searching for logic and detail, but with the heart of someone who understood imagination, a language that adults too often forget. As the days passed and I worked to repair my plane, the Little Prince told me his story. He came from a tiny planet, no larger than a house, which he called Asteroid B612. On his little world there were 3 volcanoes, 2 active, 1 dormant, and a single extraordinary flower, a rose. He spoke of his rose with both tenderness and sadness. She was beautiful and delicate, but also proud and demanding. She asked for constant attention, protection from the wind, cover from the sun, care against the cold. She was, in her own words, the most beautiful flower in the universe, and yet her beauty was matched only by her fragility. I loved her, the Little Prince confessed, but she made me so confused. Sometimes she was so proud, and sometimes she seemed so weak. His rose's vanity and neediness weighed on his heart. Confused and hurt, he decided to leave his planet to explore the universe, hoping to find answers to the questions that troubled him. He visited many worlds, and on each planet, he met a different grown-up, each one more peculiar than the last. On the first planet, he met a king. The king sat alone on a throne, giving orders to everyone and everything, though there were no subjects to obey. "Absolute authority," the king declared, "rests on reason." But in truth, he ruled over nothing but emptiness. On the second planet was a vain man. All he cared about was being admired. He wore a grand hat and bowed every time the Little Prince clapped, so he could bow again and again. "You are my admirer, aren't you?" he asked, and seemed satisfied with nothing more than flattery. The third planet held a drunkard. "He drank to forget," he said. "To forget what?" asked the Little Prince. "To forget that I am ashamed," the man replied. "Ashamed of what?" "Ashamed of drinking." And so the cycle went, sadness feeding on itself, never to end. On the fourth planet lived a businessman, endlessly busy counting and recounting the stars, declaring himself their owner. "I am a serious man," he said. "I own the stars because no one else has thought of owning them." But he did nothing with his stars, neither used nor enjoyed them. He was content only to count them, lost in numbers that gave his life no meaning. The fifth planet was the smallest of all, a single lamp and a lamplighter. The lamplighter worked constantly, lighting and extinguishing the lamp every minute because the planet turned so quickly. Though his work was pointless, the lamplighter was the only grown-up the Little Prince admired, for he thought of something other than himself. On the sixth planet, the Little Prince met a geographer. The geographer recorded the locations of mountains, rivers, and cities, but never left his desk and had never seen any of these things himself. He relied on explorers to tell him about the world, but he never explored. At last, the Little Prince arrived on Earth, a planet vast and full of life, unlike any he had seen before. Here he met a snake in the desert, a creature both mysterious and dangerous. "I am more powerful than a king's finger," the snake whispered. "Anyone I touch, I send back to the earth from which they came." The little prince was not afraid. He had traveled far and learned much, but Earth would teach him his greatest lessons. Wandering through fields, he came upon a garden blooming with thousands of roses. He was stunned. He had believed that his rose was unique in the universe. But here were so many, just as beautiful as she was. He wept. My rose is not unique after all. She is just an ordinary rose. But it was then that he met the fox, a creature with eyes full of wisdom and a voice as gentle as the wind. "Will you play with me?" the little prince asked. "I cannot," replied the fox. "I am not tamed." "What does that mean, tame?" asked the little prince. "To tame," said the fox, "is to establish ties. If you tame me, we shall need each other. For you, I shall be unique in all the world. For me, you shall be unique in all the world." The little prince thought deeply. "I think I am beginning to understand." So, day by day, the little prince tamed the fox. He sat nearby each day, a little closer each time, until their hearts were bound by invisible threads of friendship and trust. When the time came to say goodbye, the fox shared his secret, the secret that lies at the heart of all love and all meaning. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The little prince repeated the words, letting them settle in his heart. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Your rose is not just an ordinary rose, the fox continued. It is the time you have devoted to your rose that makes her so important. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You are responsible for your rose. At last, the little prince understood. His rose was unique, not because she was the only one of her kind, but because he had loved her, cared for her, and shared his life with her. Their bond was invisible, but stronger than anything in the visible world. Resolved, he knew he must return home. He longed to see his rose again, to care for her and protect her, as he should have from the beginning. But returning home was not easy. The little prince explained to me, the pilot, that his body was heavy, like an old shell he no longer needed. "I must leave it here," he said gently, "so I can return to my star." I was heartbroken. I had come to love this child who spoke in riddles and saw the world with such clarity. But I understood. His journey was not mine to hinder. That night, under a sky ablaze with stars, the little prince bid me farewell. He asked me not to watch, for it would be too hard. With the help of the snake, he shed his earthly shell, leaving behind only the memory of his laughter. A sound like 1,000 tinkling bells. I was left alone in the desert once more. My plane somehow repaired, but my heart forever changed. Years have passed since that night, but I have never forgotten the little prince. Sometimes, when I look up at the stars, I hear his laughter, and I remember the lessons he taught me. That love is what makes someone or something unique, that we are forever responsible for those we love, that the most important things in life are invisible, seen not with the eyes, but with the heart, and that, even as adults, we must not forget the wonder of seeing the world as children do. Now, whenever I look up at the sky, I imagine the little prince laughing on his planet, tending to his rose, watching the sunsets and dreaming of new adventures. And I smile, knowing that somewhere among the stars there is a golden-haired boy who once asked me to draw him a sheep, and in doing so, taught me to see the world anew.